Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are just going to give it a minute or two before we get started. So excited to be here with everyone this evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, we will probably just get started a minute or two after the top of the hour. Thank you so much for being here. So fabulous to see. Wow, we're already past 75 participants. That is awesome. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Welcome, everyone. If you just joined, we are just going to give it one more minute, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with our 2023 post-election debrief. All right. More and more folks are joining. We love to see it. This is Susan, by the way, head of organizing at Sister District, here to kick us off this evening. And then I will get out of our hair, but we are just going to give it maybe 30 more seconds, and then we're going to get started. So thank you all so much for being here, and thanks for your patience as we all trickle into the Zoom. Oh, just broke 100 participants. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's so exciting on a Thursday evening. All right. Okay. Well, welcome, everyone. Susan Farrell here. I am the head of organizing at Sister District. We have a really wonderful and packed agenda tonight, so we are going to go ahead and get started right away. If you have any questions for us tonight, please input them through the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we're going to have a Q&A portion of the call later tonight. All other messages can be put directly in the chat. It's always good to see who's here when we can't always see each other on a webinar. In terms of the agenda tonight, we're going to hear some welcome remarks from our executive director, Lala Wu. Then delegate-elect Michael Fagans will be stopping by to say hi to everyone. After that, we'll hear about the results of our races from Sean Werner, our head of campaigns, our candidate services program from senior field manager Taylor Hodgland. And after that, I'll be back to talk about our volunteer impact this year. Spoiler alert, it was a big one. And then we'll close out the night learning about how Sister District builds long-term progressive infrastructure, what 2024 may look like, and then, of course, our question and answer session. All right. On that note, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce Lala Wu, Sister District co-founder and executive director. Thanks, Lala.
Thank you so much, Susan. And it's so great to be here with all of you. I am really, really thrilled to see such fabulous turnout. And it's just wonderful to be here on the other side of the 2023 election, especially since our community has some really big wins to celebrate. It's because of you that we flipped Virginia blue. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I know everybody's on mute, but let's celebrate that together. This was no small feat. We could only afford to lose one seat in the state Senate, and we needed 3 to flip the House of Delegates. This was a long, expensive, challenging election cycle, and both parties played to win. Governor Glenn Youngkin was determined to wrap up his term with a red trifecta, and Republican mega donors funneled at least $22 million into his PAC this year with the hope that he would be able to push through his extreme agenda. And the centerpiece of it all was a so-called compromise 15-week abortion ban that if it had passed, would have ended Virginia's status as the only Southern state without any post-Roe abortion restrictions. So this victory means that Virginia remains a safe haven for those in the South seeking an abortion. And again, that's because of you. Abortion was on the ballot, not just in Virginia, but across the country. And together, we here did the hard work and were successful in defending abortion rights and protecting our democracy. Ohio voters backed a measure to enshrine abortion rights in their constitution. In Kentucky, Governor Beshear was re-elected, and the blue majority expanded in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court with the election of a 5th Democratic justice, means that abortion rights are that much more likely to be protected as the state continues on. So make no mistake, this progress did not happen overnight. 2023 marks Sister District's fourth cycle in Virginia, where many of us, many of you here, got our start back in 2017. And you have been with us alongside the entire time. We've been investing for 6 years now in the candidates, the legislators, the voters, the organizers, and the community-based groups who are working year-round to build enduring progressive power in Virginia and around the country. This commitment to the day-to-day hard work of power building is the reason why all of these years later, Virginia Democrats are in a position to defend abortion and all the freedoms during this critical moment. As we say here at Sister District, it starts with states, and building power in the states starts with you. Thank you so much for being part of the Sister District community and for powering progress every single time you dial a voter, contribute to a candidate, write a postcard, give to Sister District, or convince a friend to start paying attention to state legislative races on the ballot in their own state and in key states across the country. Every single person on this call has played a critical role, whether you are a volunteer or a donor or a candidate, perhaps. We are so grateful for this incredible community and all that we have built and are building together. So over the next hour, we're going to dig into the results of the 2023 election, take a closer look at the incredible impact of our community, talk about what it's going to take to build power in state legislatures for the long term, and preview what we have in store for 2024. As Susan mentioned, we've got a few minutes toward the end of the event to answer any questions to answer any questions that you have. And so just go ahead and type in any questions that you've got into the Zoom Q&A box. We will get to as many as we can. So I am really grateful again to all of you, to this incredible community of folks. And I just heard that our special guest speaker is not yet here. So we are going to wait a couple of minutes for him, but I think let's go ahead and move on to the next item in the agenda. So let's see, Sean, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make sure that, yeah, perfect. Awesome. So I just texted the delegate. I know that I've seen that all of the new members are in Richmond, and he had mentioned that he was at orientation. And so he's, I think, just trying to get out of the room to be able to talk to all of you, because I know that he is tremendously grateful. And when we asked, he was more than happy to step out of orientation. As Lala mentioned, for the folks that don't know, my name is Sean Warner. I'm the head of campaign here at Sister District. I joined earlier this year and have been to be a part of such an amazing community dedicated to fighting for progressive politicians, especially a place where we all so well, the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so, as I had mentioned, and as everyone has mentioned, as everyone knows, it was an amazing night in the Commonwealth. We needed to pick up 3 seats in the Virginia House of Delegates, and we did that. Exactly 3 seats, flipping the Virginia House to Democratic control. We needed to make sure that we didn't lose any more than 1, and we maintained control of the Virginia State Senate. This is the Sister District candidates. We won 4 of 4 to have a margin of 21-19 in the Virginia Senate, and we won 4 of 6 races in the Virginia House of Delegates, including a majority of seats with Michael Fagans and Josh Cole. We went to the next slide. As I mentioned, 8 of our 10 candidates were victorious. 80% rate was tremendously remarkable, and 8 of our 10 candidates. We endorsed 50 of our endorsees were women. We won 4 of those 5 races for a similar 80% victory rate. We had 5 of our 10 candidates were candidates of color. We won 4 of those races as well for 80%. And then 2 of our candidates were openly LGBTQ+, which is also remarkable because Danica Rome is now the first out transgender state senator in the South. I also want to highlight that none of the candidates that we endorsed were beneficiaries of the incumbency protection, right? And so all of our races this year were were non-incumbent races, which meant that they did not represent the community that they were currently seeking to represent, which is always a feat to get folks over those hurdles to get to new seats. We can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we invested in the majority makers. And you will see that, as I had mentioned, 21 to 19 Democrats now still control the Virginia State Senate. If you put all the results in order from the most Democratic seats to the least Democratic seats, that's what we call the seat order. And obviously, we need 21 seats to ultimately prevail for a majority. And you'll see that 3 of our 4 endorsements were right in that 19, 20, and 21 range. So we were investing right in the way. Lushery Third was number 17. Obviously, was a crucial election there as well, in the event that we didn't know what was going to happen in the off year elections and what turnout was ultimately going to look like. But you'll see here, Schuyler defeated a very formidable opponent, incumbent Senator Siobhan Dunavant, who had prevailed after being targeted by Democrats in several elections in the past, including by Deborah Rodman, who was a sister district candidate just 4 years ago. Schuyler winning this race with a decent margin is a clear indication of the top-notch campaign that they ran, in large part because of the support of sister districts. Russet Perry was running against the son of a billionaire. And Russet was very clear that she was going to talk about abortion from the day that she got into the race until the day that she got out of the race. As a CIA prosecutor CIA operative and a Loudoun County prosecutor, she was able to withstand the attacks from her opponent, Juan Pablo Segura, over being soft on crime. She had a nice margin here, ran a strong campaign, and was able to raise the necessary resources. But not least, as we go to the slides, is Danica Rome. This race was a lot closer and got a lot nastier at the end of the campaign. Danica was always a top priority for us. She was probably she is the candidate that we raised the most money for, and it's absolutely remarkable that she will now, in the face of far right attacking trans kids throughout the country, for them to see a wonderful human like Danica serve as a role model by getting a promotion to the state Senate. She'll be an amazing addition to the state Senate in Virginia. One of my favorite tweets that has happened since Election Day is a tweet by Schuyler Van Valkenburg. You'll see that in the bottom left, where the Virginia pilot's talking about whether or not Democrats could surpass the governor. And Schuyler very smartly wrote, "will surpass the governor" for key pieces of that. And so we can go onto the House. So similarly, really with 100 seats, and when we started endorsing candidates and thinking through the endorsements in March, we really had to identify the places where we knew that we could have the greatest impact. And it was really remarkable that 2 of our first House endorsements were Joshua Cole and Michael Fagan's seat, literally 49 and 50. And so just looking at everything that we have done here, Phil Hernandez obviously was open running for a new seat. This was a seat that Republicans tried to put on the board late. A lot of Youngkin money went to Andy Pittman. We were able to sustain those attacks, and Phil prevailed with a nice margin there in Norfolk. Joshua Cole, we knew that this race was going to be come down to the final end. We knew that this race was tied the whole ways until the end of the election, according to all of our polling, and this was a top priority for us. This is in a DC media market that was extremely expensive. Josh Cole, a former delegate, just worked tirelessly since he had unfortunately lost his race in 2021, and just has continued doing the work. And then when this new seat came open, instantly announced and just continued to work until Election Day. And then finally, seat number 50 is Delegate-elect Michael Fagans. As we were watching on election night, these final returns came in with the mail ballots, pushing him over to the edge with a nice sizable margin. And I heard if you say his name 3 times, he'll arrive. So Michael Fagans, Michael Fagans, Michael Fagans. I will turn it over to Delegate-elect Michael Fagans.
Hey, everybody! Sorry for the delay. Right now, all of the winning team is actually up here in Richmond right now for our training. Right now, we're having we're at Top Golf after a hard day of training, learning about the processes. we're actually getting a chance to really enjoy our few moments. So right now, I want to make sure to thank everyone for Sister District. And I've said it before, I said it again, our campaign would not be where it is, would not have won without your support, the early money, the postcards. And, I really want to speak to the postcards for a little bit. So many people are like, oh, postcards don't work. Postcards, it's just a way to get volunteers to feel like they're engaged. So many times when I was when we were at the polls, we had people come to them saying, hey, thank you for your team writing postcards. And I know y'all wrote almost 4,000 or 5,000 postcards from the teams across the country for Sister District. So the postcards really meant a lot. And then especially on election day, as I was out at one of my polls on about 4:00 on election day, we had individuals coming up to us and saying, hey, your team just called us and reminded us to come out and vote. And I was wondering, I was like, because I knew my team was spread out, but what they were saying was Sister District. I didn't realize that there was a phone bank running on election day, calling people saying, get out to vote. And those last minute votes really made the difference. We knew that if we were able to flip the House of Delegates, that and be able to take back, it was going to be within our seat. And y'all really did it. It means so much to me right now, after 19 months on the campaign trail, after traveling across the country, getting to do events in Chicago and California and all across the Commonwealth, that y'all were there from the start and really made the difference in our race. And you made the difference in not just in the 80,000 people who represent House District 97. You made a difference for almost 8 million people who live in the Commonwealth, who now have, that we've ensured that we'll have reproductive freedom, that we've ensured that we're going to have the ability to have to pay our teachers and our education support staff the wages that they deserve, that we're going to be taking care of our veterans, and that really that we have a great opportunity to make sure that we're going to be protecting our community with common sense gun legislation. So from the bottom of my heart, from everyone here, we have about 20, 25 of the candidates who have won on the Democratic side here right now, just getting a chance to really celebrate here in Virginia, here in Richmond, getting a chance to learn about each other, getting a chance to meet, learn about what it's going to take to really put in that comprehensive legislation. And we know that we wouldn't be here without the support of Sister District. So thank you to Sean. Thank you to everyone who knocked the door, who came out here, who supported us, and who made this victory possible. So I just want to say thank you again for the support. And we know that the Commonwealth, and not just the Commonwealth, but the whole entire country is in a better place because we send a strong signal to the rest of the country that we're ready for 24, that we're ready to take back the House of Representatives, and that we're ready to reelect President Biden. And it all started here in Virginia. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Delegate-elect. We will not hold you from your colleagues forging those relationships that we know are going to serve you so well in the House of Delegates. It was truly a remarkable journey. I cannot thank you enough for the sacrifices that you have made to step forward and run. Without courageous leaders like you stepping forward, we can't organize. And so I cannot thank you enough, Delegate, and good luck. And obviously we'll be watching from afar, and I'm sure we'll never be far from our phones or not be in touch.
No, thank you. And I have about a few more minutes. Were there any questions, Sean, before I left? Were there any questions in the chat or anything like that? Just want to make sure, y'all have done so much for me. The least I can do is make sure to acknowledge the hard work and dedication that y'all have done, for my race and for the 8 other individuals. I know we wanted to make sure that we, I wish we could have got Nimhard on. I wish we could have got Kim on. But the fact that, just an hour ago, I got to shake the hand of Governor Youngkin. And it was good because I got to shake his hand and look him in the eye and let him know that we were the reason why his agenda will not be happening. We were all in the room, and we know that we were the reason that his presidential aspirations ended. And it's really because of what Sister District and so many other partners did. So tonight was a great feeling. Don Scott is in the other room right now. We know in a few weeks he's going to be sworn in. as the first Black Speaker of the House in Virginia after 400-year history. So much history has happened here in Virginia, and I can't thank y'all for enough for what y'all did on the ground, on the digital waves, and with your postcards and on the phone. So thank y'all again.
Of course. There's just a ton. I'm digging through the love and the affirmation that folks are giving you in the Q&A. I guess the one big question is, what issue are you the most excited about working on in the legislature?
So of course, so as a freshman, I'm not going to be able to carry like the huge big bills. We know that education, getting ready to enshrine reproductive rights is going to be paramount for us. But as a freshman, one of the big bills that I'm looking forward to being able to carry is going to be making sure that we're protecting our veterans, and really also in terms of our small businesses. I'm going to get the chance to really build some bridges. It's bipartisan work, but it's really going to be speaking to a lot of minority businesses. There's a bill we're looking at being able to bring back the Virginia Minority Business Council. That's something that's been gone, and that's something as a small business owner, as a minority business owner, that I'm looking forward to being able to champion. And those are just a few of the issues. There's so many issues. And we know that we have to work with. At the end of the day, we don't have the governor's mansion, and so a lot of the next 2 years, and we let our constituents know, this election was really about just holding the line until 25. And we know you're going to be here in 2 years when we run for re-election, when we're trying to retake the governor's mansion. So there's going to have to be some bipartisanship, but there's areas that we know that there's lines in the sand, especially when we're talking about reproductive freedom, especially with fully funding our schools, that we're going to put our foot down and say, hey, here are our bills. Go ahead and veto them if you want to. And because we know you're going to have to be a lame duck governor for the next 2 years, and you don't want your agenda being passing no bills for the next 2 years. And so he's going to have to work with us. But it was a good feeling tonight to be in the governor's mansion, to look him in the eye, let him know that my seat was the one that stopped his agenda for the next 2 years. So.
Well, thank you so much, Delegate-elect. We'll let you get back. We got a packed agenda ourselves, but thank you.
Thank y'all.
Of course. Congratulations.
Thank you again.
Of course. So I gave you an overall of the results, and we can look those up, and I'm sure I know several of the volunteers on the call are very familiar with VPAP. So there's not new information I'm really giving here other than that, but I do want to highlight how important the work that we all did on each of these campaigns, as the delegate-elect said, propelled folks to be in the position for victory. So what you see in front of you now is a cute picture of Russet Perry carrying her sign, but also a spreadsheet of what we identify as the most crucial piece of our work, which is early dials and early dollars. I'll talk first about early dollars. So as you'll see, the top 4 candidates are the candidates that we had in our first wave. Danica Rome, between the beginning of her campaign through what we call early dollars are prior to September 1st, Sister District was 15.48% of her early dollars. Truly remarkable. It was those dollars that allowed her to hire her staff, allowed her to make sure that the organizers were on the ground to then carry her through the rest of that piece. You'll also see that similar numbers with Michael Fagan's, another majority-making district where you all saw the importance and saw the opportunity, and you talked to your friends, and you organized, and you raised the resources, amassing 12.35% of his early money. You can see right down on the line, Phil Hernandez is very similar. The numbers for our for our Wave 2 candidates, obviously some of them had primaries. Some folks were really waiting. Some of the large investors were really waiting to come in till afterwards. But it was our endorsement immediately, quick post primary, that helped them kind of replenish the coffers, make sure that they would have the resources to pivot to the general election. And it really was remarkable to see all of the work that you all would do. My favorite thing would be to open up Periscope on Monday mornings and see all of the amazing resources that came in from your amazing events. And I know that Susan will talk about this. Let's go to the next slide. And so the one thing that I want to highlight is that everybody on this call is kind of a part of the sister district family. And that family is never going to show up on DPAP as one item, as one line item. But I want to let you all know that of our 10 candidates, we were one of the top 10 fundraisers for each of them, right? Obviously, we have the capacity to add up all the resources that we raised. And if you can look at all of these bottom here, you can see Michael Fagan's, there were only two entities, the House Democratic Caucus and Clean Virginia Fund, that would have given more than what we all collectively did. Doing that hard work, we can't just write one of those big checks. We have to talk to our friends. We have to talk to, our families and our neighbors about why we're passionate about these candidates. That is the hard work. And that is why time again after again, candidates tell us that that sister district really is the reason why they are where they are. Go to the next slide. Similarly, with the early dollars is the early dials. These dials are absolutely critical. You can see here that these percentages are massive. The only one that is under 50%, under half, meaning one of every two calls were coming from sister district, and that's on the lower end with Skylar Van Valkenburg, and that's because he's been, he had amassed a massive campaign already in this summer and hired organizers earlier than any other campaign. But to be able to look down and realize that it was these calls that were identifying our voters, our supporters, to make sure that we could, mark that they were supportive and then just remind them to turn out and vote. We would identify the undecided voters and then allow the campaign and the candidate to call those folks individually so that they could be more efficient with their time. And finally, identifying volunteers. After we know someone is a supporter and they say that they want to volunteer with our campaign, that gave us the fuel for the final field effort that allowed us to turn out the votes that we ultimately needed to win these victories and to win these majorities. Go to the next slide. I also want to highlight, these were all new districts, right? No legislative candidates had run on these districts at all. We were piecing together old election results. But with new districts come new opportunities. I would be remiss not to mention the 4 cycles that Sister District has been involved in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so there were several alum that won new seats, which we're very excited about. They were either reelected or won new seats. And it was really remarkable to see Ghazala Hashmi get elected, Brianna Sewell, Kathy Tran not only won her seat and was reelected to her seat, but her colleagues elected her as the Democratic Caucus chair, which is absolutely remarkable, seeing our alum climb the leadership ladder. David Reed, Shelley Simons, folks that had left the legislature are coming back. Jennifer Carroll Foy won a seat in the state Senate. Alex Askew, not only will Karen not be in the legislature, but Alex will be back as well. And we also have Michael Fagan for folks that worked in the Virginia Beach cycle. I know that Lauren on this call from Chicago definitely wanted revenge, and we got it. And then finally, Delegate-elect Deborah Gardner, who was endorsed in 2021. So we just continue to grow our ranks in Virginia and have tremendous impact. We'll go to the next slide. So there's going to be a ton of information that we will learn over the next coming months. Some of the early takeaways, right? We won't know exactly who voted until they update the voter file in probably February, March. But some of the key early takeaways for us to explore is obviously, without a doubt, abortion access was the top testing issue. It served not only as something to affirm, to give a proactive, positive vision for what Democrats would do, but it also used as an effective critique of what the Republicans ultimately wanted to do. And so we saw candidates run not only on advancing abortion access, but then providing that alternative and making sure that folks knew that Republicans wanted to ban abortion as of 15 weeks. I just want to highlight that this was the most important issue. We saw this in all of our polling in one of our key victories. Our candidate actually was favored in this over 2-1. And it was the top issue. And so we knew that we just needed to continue to lean into abortion access as a key issue. The one thing that I will see and I found a bit interesting is that Governor Youngkin spent about $2.5 million early on trying to switch the voting patterns of the Republican electorate. Republicans have always been skeptical of in person, early vote in person. And he spent all this money just convincing folks to secure their vote by voting in person early. And so we saw that trend happen the first weekend. Democrats, as Democrats are known to do, we were quite worried. Obviously we continued to work our plans, but what we saw is that was actually cannibalizing a lot of Republicans that would typically vote on election day. They were just actually going ahead and moving when they would vote. It wasn't introducing new voters, but the one thing that we will see is that, and we will see on election day, and once we get more data, is did that then allow them to have more resources dedicated to those less frequent Republican voters, similar to the strategy that we have been deploying for decades since Democrats have been focusing on in-person early vote. Our mail ballots, still to this day, Democrats are doing very well on mail ballots. The one thing that I want to make sure that we highlight is so many of our campaigns basically handed over that ballot chase program to our volunteers. It was so wonderful to talk with folks on the ground who wanted to make sure that they had enough capacity to get through their lists as many times as they possibly could. And they knew that we had the capacity. You all did it. You stood with their candidates, got those ballots in. We performed very well. And then we held our own on election day. Which is something that we have not seen in previous elections. If folks remember in 2020, that was quite a red wave on that day. And finally, early communications is absolutely critical. We were able to define what the agenda would ultimately be, talking about abortion access before Republicans ultimately could. We also know that the coordinated campaign, which is the field effort, talking, knocking with voters, started a lot earlier than it has in the past. And so that's something that we will encourage folks to do in future states as we move into 2024. We can get ahead to the next slide. And I will kick it over to my esteemed colleague, truly one of the best in the business, Taylor Hoagland, our senior field manager, who is my right-hand arm in helping making these campaigns be as strong as they possibly could. Taylor?
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. To those who I have not met before, I am Taylor Hoagland, our senior field manager. And wow, how difficult is it to follow up Sean and the delegate-elect? But I'm here to do my best. Like Sean touched on earlier, our ability to run this program is truly driven, or our candidate services program is truly driven by the impressive results that our volunteers generate in their field and fundraising efforts. And so again, just like big thank you to all of our volunteers. From our first interaction with these candidates and these team of campaigns, we encourage them to take advantage of our political department's combined experience as much as possible and as early as possible. Of the 40 projects that we completed this year, majority of the projects were field-based, right at 50%. After narrowly losing the House in 21, we knew that these races were going to come down to field margins. And so we proactively worked with our campaigns to ensure that their programs were comprehensive and smart and early starting. 21% of our projects were finance-based. These races were expensive and fundraising can be tough in the off cycles. So we were able to help quell that dollar-induced anxiety by helping them identify new donor pools and work on perfecting call times with their candidates. 14% of our projects were communications-based. We helped folks strategize around rapid response messaging, breaking down TV and mail plans that they had may have never seen before. And then 11% of these projects were around general consulting, working with these first-time managers on managing their teams of staff and consultants and helping them balance that out. Moving on to our next slide, I am super excited to highlight our biggest win of the year, which was securing VPB Connect for all of our endorsed candidates. We worked with both the House and Senate Democratic caucuses and the coordinated campaign and the individual campaigns to ensure our candidates have access to one of the best phone banking tools in the business early on enough, making sure that our volunteers and theirs on the ground were able to ramp up their dialing, make it more efficient, and rack up more of those valuable IDs for the campaign. Moving into the next slide, this is a very abbreviated timeline showing how our program looks as the campaign cycle progresses. As I mentioned at the start, we jump in wherever we can upon the endorsement. A lot of these teams, as we started talking to them, only had a manager. They didn't have their field director or finance director on staff yet. So we would jump in and help fill in those gaps. as I mentioned, sorry, I lost my point. Moving on after that initial endorsement, and we're starting to get things settled in, we work with them on proving their viability. We help them finalize and perfect their budgets and projections, and help them walk into new donor and investment meetings that they may never have walked into before. We also work with them and assist on endorsement questionnaires and policy point perfection, making sure that they are leading with the most succinct message possible. And then, of course, going into the GOTV season, we are helping them plan and execute for victory. This includes field sequencing, helping them make sure that they're prioritizing that vote by mail program, which is so important for winning, as Donna just mentioned. And then we work with them as well on cash flow check-ins, making sure that they have enough money at the right time, and then also help them leverage any campaign updates that may be useful when talking to donors. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Susan, who's going to talk about our volunteer impact.
Thank you, Taylor. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I'm back. Susan here, head of organizing at Sister District. Thank you so much to the Sister District teams, affiliates, leaders, and volunteers joining us tonight. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you did to bring this election home. The Virginia State Senate and House of Delegates are blue because of you, which means abortion will remain legal in Virginia because of you. You all made all the difference in this election, from fundraising to phone banking to postcarding and everything in between. We gave it our all and it paid off. We could not be more grateful for your hard work, perseverance, and dedication to electing Democrats in Virginia. Our candidates could not have won without Sister District support. And again, that all starts and ends with you. Really excited now to dig into our 2023 volunteer impact. And there is no better place to start than our fundraising impact. Across the board, Sister District teams and affiliates rallied their donors to put up a remarkable fundraising effort this year. In 2023, Sister District teams and affiliates raised $462,000 for our endorsed candidates. We also raised over $84,000 for our 2023 State Bridges organizations. And I really want to highlight that over 19,000 of that 84 specifically went to the New Virginia Majority, an organization that's building year-round organizing infrastructure in Virginia and had a direct impact on the selection as well. And we can't thank you enough for your generosity in raising over $27,000 for Sister District HQ so that we can provide a level of support that matches your dedication and hard work. Teams and affiliates hosted 83 individual fundraising events, wow, which doesn't even count the digital fundraising efforts people put on, like fundraising blitzes and phone bank sponsorships. We can go to the next slide. But what really sets Sister District apart, though, when it comes to candidate fundraising, is the emphasis we place on early money. This year, teams and affiliates raised $388,438. It's a number so big I have a hard time saying it, before September 1st. That means we raised 83% of our total candidate funds when it had the greatest impact, early. Many donors don't think about going into their piggy banks until closer to the election, so the early funds we provide our candidates are invaluable. Instead of waiting until the end, we raise money for our candidates right away. We help them prove fundraising viability so that other donors will jump in and we can compound our impact together. The early money we raised allowed candidates to hit the ground running this year. They were able to hire staff earlier, fund a campaign office earlier, go up on TV, and so much more. State legislature candidates often struggle with name recognition, and providing them funds early to get the word out about who they are and why they are running can help increase name ID and jumpstart their campaign. Of the 83 total fundraisers, 65 of them happened before September 1st, which really goes to show this community does not wait until GOTV to get involved. We are ready to go from day one. We are so effective as a fundraising organization, but if we go to the next slide, you'll see that what I love most about Sister District is that we put the fun in fundraising. To highlight just a few of the amazing fundraisers Sister District teams and affiliates hosted this year, from left to right, you'll see Executive Director Lala Wu with Delegate-elect Michael Fagans and Sister District Los Angeles at a house party this June. Next, you'll see Sister District Greater Chicago making dollars and cents, perfume cents, at a summer fundraiser. Next, you'll see Delegate-elect Phil Hernandez at a kickoff party in San Francisco with Sister District San Francisco. And on the right, Senator-elect LaCherice Aird at a joint fundraiser with Sister District DC, Virginia, Maryland, and the Women's National Democratic Club. We had so many creative and fun events that raised money and also built community. I couldn't even name them all, but to shout out a few, we hosted auctions, garden parties, poker nights, a Dance at Blue, yoga series, hiking series, paella nights, tacos and margaritas, chocolate tasting, wine tasting, cupcake and pupcake sales in partnership with our friends at Bake Back Better, and so many more. But I also want to shout out the wonderful collaborative fundraising events this year, like our Stand Up for Democracy comedy night, the Big Quiz Thing virtual trivia, friendly blitz competitions between teams, phone bank sponsorships, and virtual town halls, all of which contributed to our big success this year as well. All in all, we outraised our 2021 candidate fundraising by $40,000, and I could not be more thankful for all of the work put into raising critical funds when our candidates needed them most. Now, if we go to the next slide, onto the other half of the coin, our impact when it comes to voter contact or field, organizing, whatever you'd like to call it. Excuse me. To start with our bread and butter, Sister District runs the best state legislature phone banks in the country. Together in 2023, we made 328,469 phone calls to Virginia voters across our 10 endorsed candidates districts. And we made these dials count. We found 3,994 undecided voters, recruited 673 local volunteers, each one worth their weight in gold, and made 2,815 vote plans with Virginia voters. That's 2,815 votes our candidates could count on because of us. Those are election-making voter contact numbers. We continue to punch above our weight when it comes to impact. On average, we made 43% of our candidates' calls, with some highs including 97% of LaCherice Aird's calls, wow, 50% of Michael Fagan's, and 45% of Joshua Cole's calls. Thanks to our incredible phone bank leaders, we hosted 570 phone banks across all of our phone bank programs and had more than 3,550 unique volunteer shifts completed. Once again, we emphasize not just dials, but early dials, with 40% of our phone calls made before September 1st. This critical early field support was invaluable to our campaign's data and understanding of where the voters in their districts were starting from. Any way you slice it, our phone bank program had major impacts on the outcome of the Virginia elections, and I cannot thank our phone bank volunteers, fellows, and leaders enough. But we know phone banking is about more than just voter contact. Next slide, please. It's an opportunity to build community and foster partnerships with like-minded organizations and individuals, because we are always stronger together. This year, Sister District HQ hosted phone banks with famous drag queen Elliot with 2 T's, the UC Berkeley Dems, the Columbia Law School Dems, and so many more. I'd love to give a special shout out to our national phone bank partners like Vote Save America, Gaslit Nation, Climate Cabinet, Swing Left, Network Nova, and so many more. Sister District teams spearheaded partnerships across the country as well, including partnerships with the Bay Area Coalition, the UC Davis Dems, and the Women's National Democratic Club, and many more. On the slide, you'll see from left to right, Sister District's premier high school phone bank club, the Bard Crew, Andrea Chalupa of Gaslit Nation at our Halloween phone bank, Sister District Sacramento celebrating a major milestone of 100,000 lifetime dials, and Sister District Portland Plus embodying what it means to smile while you dial. Across the board, we gave it our all, and the phone banks paid off. But we are not just on the phones at Sister District. Next slide, please. When it came to canvassing, Sister District volunteers and staff traveled from near and far to knock on over 4,000 doors in Virginia. And I'd love to give a special shout out to Sister District New York City, San Francisco, DC, Virginia, Maryland, Greater Chicago, and Sister District YOLO, who drove or flew to knock doors for our candidates and all of the partner organizations that joined us as well. Sister District also sent 19,555 texts, truly meeting the voters where they are. And I'd be remiss not to mention Sister District volunteers also wrote over 25,000 postcards to Virginia voters. An absolutely magnificent effort from everyone involved, and I can't thank the Sister District postcard leaders enough. All right, I gave everyone a lot of numbers in this short period of time, but I can't express how much greater the impact of our work is than the numbers on these slides. These numbers represent a community of motivated, driven, wonderful activists who had what it took to turn Virginia blue. I'd like to say thank you one more time. And now I would like to pass the mic to my colleague, Raven Douglas, who is the head of our civic engagement programs, who's going to elaborate on how we do this work year-round to build long-term progressive infrastructure in places that need it most. Thank you all so much. Over to you, Raven.
Thanks so much, Susan, for the introduction. We understand that progressive change is a continuous journey, and it's not just limited to elections. In our civic engagement and research departments, we are strategically shaping the progressive infrastructure for the long term. You can go to the next slide. For our Purple District Network, it is one of our flagship initiatives, and it is the only legislator network dedicated to supporting progressive state lawmakers in purple districts. With 90 state lawmakers across 30 states, many of which are Sister District alumni, we are working to foster community through convenings each year. And these convenings provide a platform to share best practices, governance techniques, and effective strategies for lawmakers. Additionally, we offer valuable resources through our quarterly newsletter, resource library, and member directory. I saw a couple of questions about the partnership on the joint convening for next year. And so we're super excited to be bringing national resources in to work with our legislators to help them strengthen their governance practices. In terms of our research work, we know that the state legislative races can be so close, and hidden turnout through down ballot roll-off can be crucial to deciding elections, especially when these elections are won by hundreds of votes. And so most recently, in the past, Sister District has done a lot of research on down ballot roll-off and really understanding how it's happening and the impact it has on our elections. But recently we've conducted focus groups delving really into the why behind down ballot roll-off. And so this initial qualitative research is now being followed up by a large-scale survey. And the survey aims to explore how voters spanning the political spectrum and various demographic groups think and feel about, one, their state representatives, two, the importance of state versus federal power, and three, their self-reported behavior when voting at the top and bottom of the ballot. And all of this research will culminate into a toolkit that we will release next year that we can then share with partner organizations like League of Women Voters, like the States Projects, as well as with our volunteers, so that we are better able to communicate with voters and hopefully mitigate down ballot roll-off next fall. And in terms of our narrative change work, we all know, and the reason that we're here is that state legislators are growing ever more powerful. Many of the most critical and life-altering policies, from abortion access in Congress. And on top of that, the Supreme Court continues to weaken federal protections and enlarge state power. And so we are embarking on various narrative change efforts to reshape how we think and speak about progressive state power. And so this year we had a really exciting collaboration with Teen Vogue to spotlight historic firsts among state lawmakers. And so through op-eds and personal Q&A interviews, we uplifted inspiring stories of women, people of color, young folks, LGBTQ plus individuals, as well as other trailblazing lawmakers. And so as we look ahead to 2024, we're excited to be expanding our narrative work by partnering with additional media outlets and then also relaunching our State Power series. We did the State Power series in 2022, and so we will be bringing it back for next year. And this series aims to start a conversation on how we even got here, and then emphasize the urgent need for progressives to engage at the state level and take action now. And certainly last, but certainly not least at all, our State Bridges program is an initiative to lay the groundwork for electoral victories by supporting local power building organizations and their leaders. In 2023, we achieved significant milestones. We hosted 5 virtual fundraiser events and provided support to 8 organizations actively building power in 5 key states. Those states were Virginia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona. I specifically want to highlight Virginia and New Virginia Majority Thanks to our grassroots donors and volunteers, we raised over $20,000 for New Virginia Majority. And this investment not only helped to flip the ledge this year, especially because everyone was able to coordinate. And we also did a joint canvassing with New Virginia Majority. And so this is just really important why early dollars matter in this program. But collectively across the State Bridges program, our grassroots volunteers have been able to raise over $115,000 this year, which is helping to surpass $500,000 in funds raised since the program's inception in 2021. And again, these early dollars are crucial for these organizations, especially at the beginning of the year. And we know that State Bridges is helping us to build a foundation for 2024. And we're excited to be inviting 6 of our 8 partners back next year to continue to build the momentum. And so, as everyone has mentioned, 2023 was a very, very busy year, but we have even more to do next year. And so I will pass it back to Lala to talk about our.
Thank you so much, Raven. I think it's such an important reminder, all of the work that we do all year round, not just for the elections, but also our legislators, our community-based organizations, the research that we do. All of this is what we are going to do to build long-term power in the state. So thank you so much for that, Raven. I just wanted to talk for a couple minutes about our strategy as we head into this blockbuster presidential year 2024 and beyond. Our North Star here at Sister District is to build power in key states every year this decade so we can be in the strongest position possible for redistricting in 2031. I know that feels far away, but really it's not. We are going to be focusing next year on presidential and democracy battlegrounds like Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. And these are places that we have been year over year, where we have made commitments cycle after cycle, where we have deep knowledge of how the state works, what the infrastructure is like, who our partners on the ground are, and we have relationships. These are so, so important to, again, what Taylor talked about, that trust that we build with folks on the ground so that we can make sure that we are helping our candidates run the strongest campaigns possible in line with data-driven practices, best practices, so that we can get these folks across the finish line and get those majorities. We are going to have a political strategy report, a political strategy that comes out after our impact report. Look out for that in January 2024. And we just have some incredible opportunities ahead that I'm so excited about for this community. Yes, it's a big presidential year. A lot of attention will be paid to the top of the ticket, but I also think that there is a truly great opportunity for all of us to drive more attention down ballot as well. So I am going to close there and start to go into the Q&A. I think we're going to have a few other folks join me on camera.
Yeah. Hey, Lala. We've got Susan. I believe we have Sean and Raven. If you can join us as well, we just have about 5 minutes for the Q&A this evening. Thank you, everyone, for submitting questions. We've been trying to get to a lot of them in the chat because unfortunately we won't be able to answer all out loud. To start us off, though, Lala, a common question we're seeing is, how does Sister District approach collaboration with other organizations like ours in this space?
Yes, I love this question. Collaboration is baked into our DNA. It is so important to everything that we do. And so we partner with all kinds of organizations across the political spectrum, grassroots, those that focus on state ledge, and not just along the electoral lines, but also with our infrastructure work as well. So we partner with groups like Swing Left on grassroots, Vote Save America on driving more phone calls and field and fundraising support to our volunteers. We partner with organizations like the States Project. We provide volunteer opportunities for their giving circles. We also partner with them on the legislative side. Much more to say about that, but just to say that we are incredibly enthusiastic about sharing intel with our volunteers, working together with them, finding ways to make sure we're not duplicating efforts and that we are force multiplying our impact.
That's awesome. We love our partnerships, that's for sure. Our next question is for Sean. Sean, it looked like turnout varied greatly across House districts and Senate districts as well. Do we know why there were such variations from like Senate district to Senate district and that type of thing?
Sure. So that could be several things, right? That could be, for example, us endorsing Travis Nemhard in Danica Rome's district, right? Helping to stimulate the electorate on several fronts. But also, unfortunately, we still live in a system that has some tremendous barriers to voting, right? We know that a lot of our voters are working class folks that may not have the education levels or the access to the ballot that those may need. And there's still tremendous education that we ultimately need to get to do that. And so sometimes you'll see demographic and geographic trends. And so, without a single statewide race, because the state legislator was at the top of the ballot, which I love, every 4 years it happens, sometimes there isn't that same motivating. And so that is where you'll see kind of the variances, socioeconomic, education levels, a lot of factors into that.
Oh, thank you. That is super helpful to know. Our next question is also related to voter turnout. Why are mail votes mostly Democratic? Like, why do we see that trend of Democrats so heavily leading into mail, and how do campaigns capitalize on this?
Sure. And so this is a new phenomenon, right? This is a post-Donald Trump, post-pandemic phenomenon. I am here in the state of Colorado, which, thank you so much, is free and fair because of a lot of volunteers here helped our legislature, so I want to appreciate that. But, we have all mail-in ballots. And it used to be a tool that Republicans would use. And in 2014, we lost the U.S. Senate seat because of that. Now, because of the trashing of that, Democrats obviously know that, hey, it's easy. We can sign up this permanently. I get a ballot in my inbox, and then I can spend some time thinking through exactly which way I would like to vote and mail it back or drop it into a drop box. We've just seen that it's easier to track that. And so Democrats have encouraged folks to sign up for mail ballots. We knew based on who had requested them, we can see exactly kind of what that data looked like. And that's why we knew to make sure that we got all of the ballots in as possible. And thank you everybody that did the ballot chase phone calls, because as you saw, those mail-in ballots were 63, 65, 66% Democratic ballots. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Next question, back to you, Lala. The question is, can Sister District please brag more? I will elaborate and say, what are we doing to get our impact and message out there?
Thank you for this question. Well, a big part of how we get that message out there is all of you. So thank you for talking to your friends about Sister District. I'm sure many of you already talk your friends' ear off about state legislative races and our organization. But the more that you can do that, those kinds of relationships and connections, those are how we grow. It's through these relationships that really we can have the biggest impact. And then, of course, we're lucky to have some amazing high-profile partners as well. For those of you who might be fans of Jonathan Van Ness, he's been a really, really incredible partner, as well as some amazing podcast partners as well that Susan mentioned. So anybody who has any folks or platforms that you'd really like us to get onto, let us know, and we would love to check it out.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Lala. I'm afraid that is all the time we have for Q&A. Thank you, everyone, for your incredible questions this evening. I'm hoping we got to most of them. And if not, you know where to find the organizing department on Sister District to reach out to for future questions. So in the meantime, Sean, Raven, and I are going to disappear, and we'll hand it over to Lala for our closing.
Okay, thank you so much. We do like to end meetings on time here at Sister District, so we're very sorry if we didn't get to your questions, but please do reach out if you want to talk more. We love talking about this and all of our incredible wins. So one of the favorite things about this community is that the supporters are so engaged, and you all volunteer and you donate and you dig into the bigger issues around building power in the states. And this year's incredible results, you've heard it once, many times, I'm going to say it again, would not have been possible without you. So thank you so, so much for your dedication, for your support, for being so generous with your time and your treasure. It truly means so, so much to me. It keeps me going every day. Before I say goodnight, I have just a couple quick announcements. We want to celebrate with you even more, especially our volunteers who are on this call Thursday, December 7th at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. We will be hosting a volunteer appreciation party. We're going to drop the link into the chat. And we'll also send up a follow-up email with registration information. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't include an invitation to donate to support and power our work at Sister District. We teach our volunteers to make a fundraising ask at the end of every event. And so we try to follow the same best practices. You've already been so generous this year, but if you are able to donate again and keep this work going, just scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the chat. Of course, you can always bug us for a link afterwards, find us on the website, find us in the email, all of that stuff. But thank you, thank you, thank you. Your donation helps us rebuild our resources so we can hit the ground running in January. This is it. We've reached the end, 6 p.m., at least where I am on the West Coast. Thank you for staying up with us. For those of you on future time zones, congratulations on everything that we as a community we have accomplished together this year. So grateful for it all. See you at the volunteer appreciation party and in the field. Thank you.